everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is all about AI agents, copilots, and chatbots. And we are thrilled to have a slew of really brilliant minds who are going to speak to us about this burning hot topic in HR and tech today. Today's webinar is powered by HR Geckos. And we are going to share what HR Geckos is. It's a co-pilot for HR operations that automates the HR help desk and streamlines HR processes. HR Geckos empowers HR leaders by automating tasks and enabling employee self-service so they can focus on strategy. Developed by HR professionals for HR professionals, HR Geckos helps you take the pulse of HR operations and prioritize what matters most: people. Interested in learning more about HR Geckos? Get in touch. Schedule a consult with our team at hrgeckos.com or simply scan this QR code. I am super thrilled to be bringing this topic to you today. You can connect with me via either email, or you can scan this QR code to connect with me on LinkedIn. As the founder and CEO of HR Geckos, I bring over 25 years of global experience leading and transforming HR functions across diverse industries, and have made it my mission to automate HR processes while keeping the human touch. I host the HR Bytes podcast, where I bring you insights from HR practitioners who are digital HR leaders. And I invite you to join our HR Bytes community here on LinkedIn. And we'll drop a link to the LinkedIn group here in the comments as well. So I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar. Today's webinar is all about HR's new allies, and it's a burning topic in HR. So without further ado, let me bring on stage my co-conspirators, who are Rajamma, Krishnamurthy, and Janell Zeug. Both of them have had firsthand experience with the tools that truly transform how we work. And today we are diving deep into one of the most exciting frontiers: AI co-pilots, chatbots, and agents. And these aren't just buzzwords. They're kind of becoming integral to boosting productivity and crucially enhancing the employee experience. So welcome, Rajamma and Janell. Tell us a little bit about what's rocking in your world today.
Janell, do you want to go first? And hello, Jay, and hello, everyone.
I'm Janell Zeug with P3 HR Solutions, and I help leadership teams navigate growth and design strategic, scalable HR solutions for their businesses. So excited to be here and talk more about AI, the chatbots, the agents, and the co-pilots.
Wonderful. What's rocking in your world, Janell?
Really just a lot of different things. I'm working with companies across different industries in the engineering world, in the oil and gas world, in commercial development. So really kind of devising solutions across different industries, but a lot of it comes back to AI.
Wonderful. Well, Rajamma, I'll let you talk a little bit about what's rocking in your world, and tell us a little bit briefly about what you do as well.
It's lovely to be here again, Jay. I know I come to your podcast quite a few times, so thanks for inviting me again. I'm Rajamma Krishnamurthy. I'm a senior director in working in enterprise AI. My job is to build enterprise agents, basically that will help. AI agents that will help enterprise, and specifically focused on employee self-service or HR agents, and when it comes to HR agents, the multiple agents, multiple things that HR do. They could be a recruiter, they could be a learning professional, they could be a talent professional, they could be just answering questions, sitting on the shared services center, and so on. So all of these, how either agents can augment the work that they're doing, and where we can actually automate the work that we are doing. So we are my team works on those. So that's my job at Microsoft.
Wonderful. Well, we are extremely privileged to have both of you brilliant minds with us today. And our goal today is definitely to get a clearer roadmap for understanding this tech, which is definitely a game changer in the HR industry and in the business world. And how do we go about making it a game changer in our own companies? So if you want to submit any questions here, please do so in the comments. And if you're catching the replay, send them via LinkedIn Messenger or email at info@hrgeckos.com. So let's kick things off by getting crystal clear on what we are actually talking about. And I'm going to switch to a better view so that you can see us better. The terms AI copilot, AI agent, AI chatbot are often used, but the distinction is vital for any HR leader or innovator looking to invest wisely in any of these tech tools. So Rajamma, from your vantage point at the cutting edge, can you break this down for us? And can you paint a clear picture of an AI copilot versus an AI chatbot versus an AI agent? What are their fundamental differences?
I'm going to just talk about the co-pilot versus agent. I think that's the big question that everyone has, right? What is co-pilot, and how does agent differ? I think when it comes to thinking about these two objects, you can think of the way they are designed, the philosophy of why they are created, the levels of autonomy that you're going to give them in the human AI interaction. That is what determines one versus the other. So let's talk about Copilot. Copilot is supposed to actually augment human decision making and assist in productivity increases, basically. Think of it as you are in the driver's seat and you've got somebody helping you navigate. So this co-pilot is obviously, there's always a human in the loop. So you're actually working with your navigator. And then it is context aware. So you might be sitting in Excel doing something and you can say, hey, Copilot, can you tell me how to do this sum formula or something like that? And it can do that. Or it can write that formula for you. And it will be conversational and assistive. So it is always like assisting you. So because it's sitting right by you, and you can say, hey, can I turn right or should I turn left here, and so on. And so basically that is what the co-pilot will do. So let's kind of shift to what an AI agent is. So it can act independently. Think of it as your personal assistant that you can actually or a digital worker that you can actually delegate the job to, and it'll only come to you when it needs to, involve you when it needs to, maybe an escalation or maybe a risk or something like that. It is autonomous. It can be semi-autonomous. There could be places where it might reach out to you for some approval or something like that, but it is doing all the tasks by itself. So it is very goal oriented. So it is not like assistive sitting in a place where you're working. It is very goal oriented. I'm going to complete one task. I'm going to say book a travel for you. I'm going to onboard a person for you. I'm going to complete a higher workflow for you, and so on. So that's an agent. It will be multi-step. It can reason on its own. So it is not asking for your intuitive reasoning help. It can understand, and it will have access to various tools and data. The Copilot can also have access to some data, but it will be in the context of where you're working. Whereas here, it can have, because it's going to be goal-oriented, if let's say it's going to do onboarding completely, then imagine the number of tools and data that it'll need to have access to complete that task. So that's how I see the difference between an agent and a Copilot.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that distinction, because it's so important today to make sure that we are, engaging with the right tool and the technology and have a good understanding of what the differences are. Are there any compelling, like non-proprietary examples of how AI copilots are assisting humans in complex tasks? And then, how are they contrasting with AI agents who are, as you just mentioned, more independent in managing processes? Are there any examples that you can share?
Sure. I'm also almost going to take you away from HR for a second. I'm going to reflect on my own job, right? I'm a product leader, and so is Janell, and so are you. So, if you're, for example, I'm going to create a product strategy, and I'm sitting in MS Word and I'm typing away. Then the Copilot is going to help me complete that product strategy. It can help me with words. It can help me with the tone. It can help me with whatever. It can help me go get some information from the other product strategies sitting in the systems and so on. So that could be one Copilot. Now shift away from that to how can I completely hand over a delegate a task. So for example, if I have some KPIs and I need somebody to go track it down and keep the progress of it kind of known and report back to me on a frequent basis. Imagine that agent can be sitting in your enterprise, going and figuring out all the data and tools that have all the information about the progress of your project, your KPIs, your goals, and everything, and it can go figure out what that could look like, and it can report to you and raise risks when it needs to. So it is keeping the context. It can be a long running thing. It can remember things. It can take some reasoning steps. Oh, this is not a big risk enough to let Rajamma know, but this is big enough to kind of let Rajamma know, and so on. So those are the two examples that I thought outside of HR. We talk about HR all the time. That we can talk about our jobs for a change.
Absolutely. I was looking at something the other day where they were trying to use autonomous agents with vending machines, right? So it was a very interesting study. It was produced out of, I think, one of the schools, MIT, or one of the schools was doing the study. And I think who spoke about it? The CEO of the Atlantic, Nick Thompson, was posting about his most interesting thing in tech the other day. And I was very curious how that was being applied, right? So it's always nice to go outside of our field to kind of get an understanding of how things are working in different industries and different segments of the business itself. So thank you for that. So as we've clarified this very technically, I wanted to then, of course, talk about HR and the benefits of AI copilots and agents for HR leaders. A lot of HR leaders today are still more opposed than in favor of all of this, because it's a little too sci-fi and it feels too inappropriate at this point in time, at least. Janell, from a strategic HR perspective, we've tried to distinguish between a helper AI and an independent doer AI. But how do you think this influences integrating them into our workforce strategies? And when you advise CHROs, what are the distinctions that you're seeing or not seeing, and is this even happening in conversations yet? And how are we changing the conversation around job design and workforce planning when it comes to all of this new technology?
So I live with it daily. Like I have my little Copilot pulled up, and I'm just getting into the agents myself. But I use it regularly for email responses, for summarizing threads, for flagging important messages. That's my Copilot. The agent that I'm getting into is helping me manage my inbox, right? I don't know if any of you let your inbox get out of control. Mine can get out of control, but it can, reply to common inquiries that you get. And so it can also schedule meetings for you, which, having your small business now, that's a really big help for me. So it can definitely, you can utilize it for email management, but you can also utilize it stepping away from HR for a minute, looking like a customer service. The Copilot can listen during your calls and suggest answers. It can pull up relevant customer data. The agent side of it can independently handle those, tier one customer queries that you get, if you have your knowledge base input, it'll pull from that and actually answer those tier 1 customer inquiries to help resolve issues. And then the customer service agents can then resolve those escalated issues, right? They can focus on other things. So, I utilize it. It is a discussion. I'm on a board of HR leaders here in Houston, and it's top of mind for many people. And it's the conversation of, we look at especially the Copilot. It's a tool. It's a tool you want to use. Agents are still, they're people trying to understand the nuances between the two, and also understand, like, okay, we as HR leaders need to dispel the fear that some people have, because the agents are really what could take over tasks. But you want it to take over the administrative, very repetitive tasks. So if it can take those tasks over, then you can focus on more fun, strategic things, or, different parts of the job. So that involves HR getting involved with training and upskilling different roles, so that if we move certain aspects of a role to an agent, then we can move new things into that person's role.
Absolutely. And if we switch it up, like for the employees, from the employee adoption standpoint, right? We see that employees are adopting all of this new technology pretty quickly outside of the workforce. Hey, all of the consumer grade experiences that we are all having outside of the workplaces are really, kind of telling us and helping us foresee the different challenges and acceptance rates for these kind of tools. How do you think HR should prepare for that from the employee adoption standpoint?
Well, I think that, there's a perception of job displacement, which I've already kind of alluded to. And Copilots are helpful tools. Agents can fully replace certain tasks. And really, employees would want some of those tasks fully replaced, right? They're the repetitive tasks. They're the tasks that really don't take a lot of thinking. It really is pulling from, okay, you do this, this, and this. So HR needs to communicate the purpose, the boundaries of the AI tools that they're going to use within the business. Again, offer those reskilling programs. If you're shifting employees to higher value decision-making roles, you need to give them the ability to do that, right? Okay, we're going to get rid of these administrative tasks and move you to more, more of a decision-making, higher impact role. Also, we need to focus on a culture of continuous learning and adaptability for our employees. We've also got to build the trust, right? So employees distrust Copilot. Obviously, there's still data that needs to be verified. You can't just take the data and just dispel it necessarily unless you've uploaded a lot of knowledge base, which if you have good knowledge base, so regular IT language, garbage in, garbage out, you got to have good information. So it's really making sure that you've built your Copilots to be with your information that's very trusted and it's accurate. Agents can also raise those ethical concerns about decision-making without human oversight. So you still want people involved in those, in at least reviewing something before a decision is made. So partner with IT. You want to implement those accountability frameworks. I would suggest involving users in the pilot testing of your program. Provide targeted training and recognize those early adopters and reward them, so that you model those success behaviors.
Absolutely. So you bring an important point, which is a great segue to the second segment of our conversation here, the human element, right? What is AI's impact on the employee experience and productivity? As an HR tech founder myself, the employee experience piece is paramount. Like it's not just about efficiency to me or to any of the technologists who are working, including Rajamma here. I'm sure she can attest to this, that it's about making work better. Definitely, it's about making work better. It's not just about efficiency. So, Janell, I'm going to ask you again, how are you seeing these AI tools kind of tangibly move the needle on the employee experience and productivity from a people-first perspective? You've alluded to some of the work that you've done, but can you give us some concrete examples of how you've seen this move the needle on EX?
Well, again, I'll go back to what your company allows, right? So everybody, hopefully there's a framework or it's at least being put in place. But if using Microsoft Teams is something many of us use now daily, it has transcription services. So you can record a meeting if your company allows that. And then you can say, summarize this meeting, because we all are in meetings, so sometimes you get distracted or whatever. So having someone, if you don't have good note takers and you're not getting those action points after a meeting, being able to use the transcription services and have it summarize the meeting and provide action items, especially ones that you're accountable for, is huge, right? Also, the Copilot can draft and proofread communications, suggest email responses. I use it regularly to start writing something. I love to write, but sometimes you just have that brain freeze and it's like, okay, I need to say this, and it gets you started. I also see it as, being great at offering predictive insights and kind of automating reports. I've also used it when I have two different, say, job descriptions in the HR world, and you need to merge them, or you need to say, okay, what's different? I like to use it as a comparison. So it definitely is something you can utilize daily to make your life and your work easier.
Well, let's take a look under the hood. I mean, Rajamma, from a technical standpoint, what's happening under the hood that enables these positive outcomes in terms of EX?
So let's start where it all began, right? The large language models. So that's what got us into this frenzy and the hype of this whole AI. I mean, AI existed since 1950s, right? I mean, and neural networks existed even in the 1980s, 1990s. So now the question of why, in the last 3 years, AI has kind of caught on fire is because of the large language models. So most of these are using large language models. What does that mean? It means that it can understand language, obviously. In many cases, it's trained on certain domains. So you can actually, figure out what that looks like. And it's got the reasoning capacity. So it knows how to, what is the next step to do in certain areas. And so you use that. And then obviously, agents many times are multi-steps, so they are workflows, and you've got to know what those workflows are. So use the language and the reasoning capabilities and the workflows. Attach it to data. So make sure, and I think Janell talked about it. You attach it to data. Does not just mean data sitting in your human capital management systems or other things. It is also the policies and the information that is sitting in the system. Then we kind of translate into an employee self-service agent sitting in an enterprise. So what will happen when we are actually creating an employee self-service agent? We use its ability to speak the language. We use its ability to know how to answer a question, what tone to set. So for example, if I say, you, employee self-service agent, are going to answer this question as though you are an HR service agent. So the tone that is set as it's also going to be the culture of the company, right? You shouldn't answer HR questions like willy-nilly. You need to have a tone that actually matches with the culture of the company. Then you use the data sitting in your systems, and make sure that it does not answer any questions based on any other data external. So don't answer questions based on policies that are from another company. Make sure you're answering questions, policies, so you kind of restrict that. Janell called out another thing, which is don't answer questions that you shouldn't. Like, for example, if somebody is talking about an harassment claim or something like that, to point them to where to go. So that you're actually short-circuiting the large language model from answering, but instead kind of giving it. So understanding the intent of the question and making sure that you're answering through what we call as the verbatim or canned responses, so that you're not letting large language models go haywire on answering certain questions. That's how responsibly you use AI, and so you're attaching that information. Obviously, security comes into play. You are going to make sure that you don't answer questions that you don't have access to. Privacy, of course, and then sensitivity of the questions depends on that as well. And then try and make sure that your self-service agents are actually getting the job done. That there should be really what your focus is to not get those tickets to the agent sitting with human agent, right? So how do you do that? By giving whatever the answer is, kind of working with the end user to say, hey, if the end user is saying, I'm going to do I want to do some reimbursement, asking disambiguating the intent, answering the question, getting them to the right destination, or completing the task right there. So that way you don't, so put the agent to work by giving it all the tools and data and security and privacy, including responsible AI, to make sure that it completes that picture. So that's how you build an agent. That's what goes under the hood to make sure that all of these pieces are coming together in a good way for the employee
Well, you
experience.
kind of answered my next question, in fact, with the data ingestion and processing capabilities as well. So I'm going to ask Janelle. Janelle, beyond just automating tasks, right, which you just alluded to, and Rajamma alluded to, are there any examples or insights on how all of these tools, especially AI agents, copilots, chatbots, are helping to reduce employee burnout from mundane work, like, processing forms, responding to emails, responding to voicemails? How AI agents are, and co-pilots are freeing up teams for doing more strategic and engaging and more high value, meaningful work within organizations? Are there any such examples that you can share or insights?
Yeah, so I worked with a company that we set up a service center, and the HR model was actually, HR was managed through tickets, right? Kind of like IT is. And so there were a lot of time spent for high level HR business partners on these tickets. And so part of our project was to build a chat box, which chatbot's kind of an agent, right? I guess. And it's pulling from the knowledge base that we uploaded. So instead of a person responding to all of those tickets individually, we uploaded our knowledge base. Our knowledge base was able to then we had the chatbot built, and it was able to pull those information. So those regular questions: how do I change my address? Where do I get my W-2? All those questions that would come in that were just really typical and frequent questions were being able to be managed by that chatbot, reducing the amount of tickets that a person was actually having to respond to by like 50%. It was really dramatic, and that was almost immediate. We saw that drop. And so it saved the time, it saved money, it saved frustration, right? You didn't have to wait for a few hours to get an answer. You got an immediate answer. So that's a real life situation that we're able to implement a way to help the employee that's asking the question, but also help the employee that's responding to those questions. They can then respond to those higher level. We tiered our questions into 1, 2, 3, 4, and they were then responding to those 3 and 4 level tier questions and reviewing the tier 2. So tier 2 was review, 3 and 4 were more escalations.
Wonderful. Well, we have an audience question here, and Ekta, hi Ekta. She wants to know, can you share a few KPIs? And I'm going to ask either one of you to chime in here. Few KPIs on how to measure the effectiveness of the employee experience, right? Like we've always considered, or she's always considered, qualitative and quantitative, and she just wants to know a little more from either of you or both of you on what kind of KPIs would you measure, on the effectiveness of the employee experience by using these different tools.
I think the main one is obviously the employee satisfaction, right? So they give feedback on the responses that they are getting, the tasks that they are getting completed. So usually thumbs up, thumbs down with some. So you are going to measure. So that telemetry of getting that done. Second, there's productivity on both sides. From an employee perspective, not having to create a ticket or trying to search around for something that they were trying to do. There's one destination that they can go to and ask any question and complete tasks. That way there is productivity measure on that side. The ticket doesn't go to the HR agent, the HR human agent. So there is deflection of tickets. So there is productivity on the other side. And when the HR agent is responding, as Janell said, that it can actually bring out the information so that they are not searching around. So there is additional value on that side. So you can just start seeing that there is efficiencies and employee experience satisfaction and the fact that you can get along. Nobody wants to come to HR because they would like to, right? They've got something to get done, so they want to get it done. And when they can get it done in a quick way and know that they can trust that it is quality and appropriate, I think it saves everybody a lot of time and energy, and they can all focus on their daily jobs. Hopefully there too they have been assisted with agents to to get their daily job better.
The whole point that you made is so crucial. But one thing stuck to me: no one likes to come to HR. It's so bad that even today, with all of these tools, that is our harsh reality, right? How do we change that? I don't know. I don't know if AI can change that, but let's hope it will, right, Janelle? What are your thoughts around that?
Well, I think if you're just launching your program, I think that a few of the things you'd want to measure is your acceptance rate. Like who are your yays? I want to use AI, and who are your nays? Also, your frequency of use, like how frequently is your team using the tools provided, and then also ask them about their efficiency improvements. To Rajamma's point, you want to say, oh, okay, so you became more efficient here, right? So then it helps build that trust and the usability of the tools if we understand that they're actually helping me become more efficient.
Wonderful. Well, this is a great segue to our next segment, which is, how do we implement all of these tools? Like, what are the different ideas that we take and then execute them solidly so that, they add to whatever organizational and business outcomes that we are looking for, and we can quantify them using the data that's coming out of these tools. So how do we move, the interest to successful implementation? So there is a lot of interest today. And Rajamma, let's start with the tech foundations. When an organization is considering any of these tools, AI copilots, agents, and chatbots, what are the key technical readiness factors they need to assess? And we're thinking data infrastructure, existing systems, integration capabilities along those lines.
I think I'm going to take you one step back even further. First of all, AI is not a destination. I keep saying that in every conversation. The AI is not a destination. AI is here to accelerate, enable, make your opportunities or problems be solved in a much different and better way. And your time to value with all the tools that you have today with AI is going to be much faster. So that is what I think. So before you and I'm going to answer your question on the readiness as well. When it comes to readiness, I think the first readiness you do is to actually define what problem you're trying to solve. Because sometimes we are just like, oh, let's just get that AI tool. It happens everywhere. Instead, like, are we trying to solve the cost of the increasing employee experiences, better experiences for our employees, or is it like faster to do something, or reducing the grunt work for certain parts of our employee population and so on. So then kind of figure out what tasks that you want to automate. And then break the tasks into subtasks and see which one will be completely autonomous because you don't need a human intervention, and which one needs an semi-autonomous agent where a human will be interacting, and which one will be more assistive like a copilot where the human will constantly interact and go do. So there are three kinds that you need to think about. So then when you have that in place, then I don't think you need to reinvent your data. Your data is sitting in your enterprise because you have been managing your enterprise with the data, whether it's human capital management or your recruiting system or whatever else. You've got all of that. What you need is the right kind of AI tools that can actually now can be that this data and these policies. Obviously, your content needs to be better and so on. So whatever you were using for searching may not work as well for large language models. So you just need to kind of make sure that your content is good. And when I say content is good, you won't know until you start using it against an LLM sometimes. So you will learn alongside while kind of bringing a tool and attaching, or we call it dragging, in terms of the data and the policies and the content, and then you can figure out whether and when you ask questions of that content, whether the answer is like valuable, and is it user context. So is it answering question for me, or is it answering question for Jay or something like that? So it has to make sense for me. So that's one thing. Another thing that you want to have in place always when you bring AI into anything in HR is to have a very clear understanding of what responsible use of AI means across the board. Everybody needs to kind of think about what ethical implications of use of AI in your company would be. I have a funny way of also talking about AI is like, think of AI as somebody you will recruit and you don't want to recruit somebody who is going to be against, it's going to be not fitting for your culture. So whatever AI tool you're going to bring, make sure that it fits your culture in terms of how it's used and what the outcomes are going to be from that, and so on. So don't try to change that with the AI tool. So your data readiness, have a clear compliance and governance readiness, and also education, making sure that everybody at least knows how to what these are. Basic education about AI versus prompting, and having conversations with AI is different from searching, which we used to do before. How to ask the right questions so that you can get the right answer and be done, right? Like you're not going back and forth with AI and so on. So I think these are the three things: data compliance and being educated. I think that would be my go-to.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that perspective from a technological standpoint about, how to assess whether the AI solution is a good fit for the organization, and sharing some of the red flags we should be watching out for. Those were my next questions, by the way, which you already answered. So, technical readiness is crucial. We are all really aware of that today because this is evolving so fast. But Janelle, we know that the people side, the organizational readiness side and the change management side is just as critical, if not even more so important in today's changing and evolving work environment. So change management is definitely a huge hurdle. So what are some of the most effective strategies that you've seen out there when it comes to encouraging employee adoption or addressing fears that you kind of alluded to earlier, or fostering a culture, as Rajamma was mentioning, that embraces these AI partners? When you're advising CHROs, leading this charge, what are some of the things that you're telling them?
Well, I agree completely with Rajamma. It is not a destination. AI is a part of your journey, and you want to bring them along, just like she said, an employee. So I think you reframe AI as a career growth tool, right? Again, it can be a tool to help you become efficient. The agents can be a tool to help alleviate you from some of those administrative tasks and learn to have more of an enhancement of your role, right? I would also say you want to lead with transparency. Openly explain what tools your company is going to use, how you're going to use them, and how they won't, right? I would definitely encourage providing regular updates, maybe hosting some Q&A sessions regarding how it's going to be deployed. You want to build that trust for the naysayers and the ones that want to lag in adopting. I would also say you want to invest in upskilling so that those role evolutions can happen, right? Employees are fearful of their job going away, but really we're saying, hey, we need to upskill your role. We want to take away these administrative tasks. The agents can free up your time to really focus on less administrative things and more thought critical work. So that's really, I think, some of the main focuses that HR should be looking at.
Wonderful. Well, again, that's a great segue into our next segment. So you guys are really leading the conversation on very well. Thank you. Without me having to plot and plan at all. To allude to my favorite superhero, Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, and especially in HR, where we're dealing with people's livelihoods and sensitive data all the time. That ethical dimension that Rajamma, you mentioned that we should be so conscious of is non-negotiable. And Janell, you're often guiding leaders through some of this complex maze of considerations. So as you know, building trust is essential to any kind of adoption of anything within an organization. What practical steps can HR leaders take, in your opinion, to create a culture of psychological safety and transparency that you also alluded to earlier around AI implementation?
So I think I'll go back to what I kind of said already. You want to conduct an AI readiness kind of assessment of your team, of your group, also the skills. Some people are going to be different on the scale of I've already been using, I haven't used it all, right? So I think you want to start with assessing your team and their current roles, also to look at what are those repetitive tasks that we can we can move to an agent, right? And then you want to create a roadmap to show where AI can support them in their role, and then where training is needed, right? I think, again, I go back to partnering with IT. Every place I work, I try to partner with IT to launch, especially if you're going to launch a pilot program, which I would totally recommend. Have some cross-functional champions on those in that pilot program, so that they can work together, and then they'll give you great feedback. They also help build advocacy, and also can help you shape what that rollout is going to look like for the larger company. Definitely develop clear AI usage policies and support structures. Again, partnering with IT, when I'm working on an employee handbook, IT, that section is very important about how we use our equipment and everything. So you want to create that documentation on appropriate AI use, the data security, accountability, and the support channels, right? You have a help desk for IT, and some companies have a help desk for HR. You're definitely going to want to have an AI help desk as well.
Wonderful. That's a great point you made, because we are all thinking about AI policies as well, right? Like, we thought about social media policies a little early on in this decade, and now it's all about the AI policy. So those are vital human-centric guardrails that you brought up, Janell. And Rajamma, moving on to you, from a design and development perspective, how can AI systems be built and implemented to inherently support these ethical principles and promote that responsible use that you spoke about earlier as well?
I think it is throughout the software development life cycle. You've got to. It's not an afterthought. It's a forethought when it comes to ethical use of AI. And so, from the very first get-go, the question that you ask is, do I really need AI to implement this? And so that is the first one. Then once you have a particular, yes, I need AI, and why, and then when it comes to the design of it, and you start thinking about, do I have all the right data? So do I have an inclusive set of data that I'm going to be using to kind of draw out of, so that I'm not using data that doesn't include whether it is various ethnic groups or whatever decision things that you're making sure that it is all encompassing, that you're not leaving out anything in that overall AI application. So data needs to be of quality, but data needs to be also complete. So that is one thing. Then you look at the design of the application as well. So when you start thinking about the design of the application, you need to think about, is it a very sensitive use case? I should put a human in the loop. Am I making a decision about somebody's livelihood? Am I going to make a decision about who is better than who in the company, or even candidates? I should have some human in the loop to make sure that there is that sympathy, intuition that needs to come from the human that needs to be applied here. So that is one design. Another piece of design is when you're actually having the user experience itself, you need to start thinking about, do I need to share and explain and be transparent about the fact that this is AI? This AI is recommending you jobs. AI is going to be talking to you for the first screening, so that that the person that is actually talking to them is like, they know that, and they have a different kind of reaction versus the human. More importantly, if you can also share how it is talking to you, for example, or how it is recommending. Let me just give you a simple example. Maybe it is recommending jobs to you. Maybe it can say that, hey, I'm recommending jobs based on your user experience and education. Or I'm not looking at your education, but I'm only looking at your user experience. By having the transparency, let the user be in command of what they can share, so that then that conversation is empowering to the user. So that design part of it needs to be in place. Sorry, I'm going to be a little drawn out here. But then the next steps here are obviously testing. So you test in such a way that you're including all kinds of data. You're also including for language. So you ask all kinds of rude questions to make sure that the rude answers don't come back. We call that red teaming. It's no different than how you used to security hack to make sure that data and privacy is not compromised on any system. And then last but not the least, always collect feedback. So in the system, and then do something with the feedback. Last but not the least, audit. Monitor and audit throughout the life cycle of that product to make sure that it is doing what it's supposed to do. It is not doing more than what it's supposed to, and it's not compromising somebody's access or rights to something as you are making that decision. So those are the steps.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you for that really detailed glimpse into how to, design and implement some of these systems, and of course reduce the bias that everyone talks about when it comes to an algorithm. I was thinking about how we used to play with Siri in the early days, and talk to Siri like it's a human to test it, and Siri would say, "Sorry, I can't answer that," or "Sorry, I don't know what you're saying," which was the human test, in the field, I guess, the raw test that we ran. But you're talking about red teaming and all of these other really technological driven assessments that we really need to make before we even deploy or design any of these technologies. So thank you for that. So that's a great segue into our last segment, which is how are we going to future-proof for this AI revolution? How are we future-proofing our workplaces? And as someone in the HR tech space, like all of you, I'm constantly thinking about what's next, right? Like I wake up in the morning and there's something new, right, in the news or on my LinkedIn news feed. This field is moving at lightning speed, and Rajamma, there's no one else who can talk about how fast it's moving than you. Can you give us a glimpse into that crystal ball that you have on your desk? What advancements are you most excited about? Are there any sci-fi becoming reality breakthroughs on the horizon that will fundamentally change how we use these tools and work today?
I mean, you think it's not sci-fi enough right now? So, but
Great point.
What I'm loving right now is that agents talking to agents. So, think of an onboarding agent that can talk to a laptop ordering agent, to talk to an badge creation agent, to another agent, and before you know it, that whole thing is being conducted just between AI agents, and then you will only know when something breaks. So, I think this connecting and chaining agents is the most exciting thing that I can think of right now, because as I'm building these new agents that are talking to each other, it is just fantastic to say, oh, you mean I don't even have to come in between and it can do all of these things by itself? That's fantastic. So I mean, we've all seen how agents can, and whether it's in security or cybersecurity, especially, can like go through trillions of signals and come back with, hey, that's really truly a phishing attempt or something like that. So those things we have seen, the speed at which it does, but the speeds have increased. But more importantly, this agents chaining is the best thing that I can think of.
That's great to know. Early on when I was actually ruminating over the idea of HR Geckos and building HR Geckos and the chatbot that we were building, there was no talk of AI or agents. Even these terms didn't exist. Even chatbot was sci-fi, right? And in those days, I was talking about how I can get chatbots to talk to each other and get information. And it's so interesting to see how fast that has evolved in the past 7 years that, it's definitely a bit daunting, to see all this happening in real time and happening so fast, and very exciting as well. So Janell, with these advancements, right, how can CHROs and the organizations that they serve proactively prepare their workforce and also strategize to not just adopt all this, but to thrive with all of these tools? What are your thoughts around that?
So I really think it's getting the trust and the acceptance of this, right? Because it really is a mind shift. You look at HR professionals, and I look at them as becoming more talent leaders, right? We get a shift away from the transactional tasks that are part of the roles, and more move to driving talent, engagement, and performance. So those are kind of the goals. And so really the critical skills that are needed are the digital literacy, the workforce analytics, and being able to manage change. If you're a customer service, I think you're going to move more from a customer service rep to a customer experience rep, right? Because that you're going to handle less of the queries that are now going to be handled by the agents, and you're going to be focused on resolving more complex issues and designing personalized customer experiences. So then that's a shift in what critical skills are needed, emotional intelligence, adaptive problem solving, collaboration with AI systems. So I think that will be a shift. And I think that saying that nothing's going to change is like the worst thing for anyone to say, because things are going to change. And it's really in leading with that transparency and understanding of, yes, your job will change. This is to help your job change in a very positive way. And let's work together on taking this journey together and how we're going to utilize these tools and shift from, again, some of the less fun administrative parts of a job to the more interesting, thought-provoking, problem-solving parts of a role.
Wonderful. Well, we've all kind of seen how fast the internet took over our imaginations, and then how all of the social media revolutionized how we communicate, how we network, how we interact with fellow humans on the planet. And now we are seeing how fast AI agents are going to do a lot of that communication for us. Then I don't know, we'll all just be cloned by an AI agent and just watch, I don't know, tennis. I'll be watching tennis all day or cricket all day. So thank you for, sharing both of your perspectives. It's so crucial today to understand all of these technologies and think about how we're designing, implementing, and adopting to not just be more efficient and productive, but to actually thrive in our workplaces. So thank you, Rajamma and Janell. These insights are definitely things that I will take into my next of HR technology work at HR Geckos, and I'm sure our audience has gotten a lot of insights and takeaways from today's conversation. So, audience, if you'd like to submit any other questions, you can feel free to do so now. There's someone, Bunmi, just posted a comment saying AI is growing astronomically. No one should be left behind. Correct. Absolutely right, Bunmi. We definitely shouldn't be left behind. And that's why we are having all of these conversations. There's so many more conversations that we are bringing to you through the HR Geckos AI and HR webinar series here on LinkedIn Live. Do join us. Our next conversation is pegged for June 12th. And it's all about building the HR tech stack and the HR tech ecosystem with AI in today's workplaces. So do join us at noon Eastern time on June 12th, where we'll have another slew of really brilliant panelists sharing their insights and all of their experiences around that. We'll also end today's show by calling you to take action on assessing your current AI strategy using today's insights. And feel free to reach out to any of us. We're all on LinkedIn, Rajamma, Janell, myself. We're happy to help out. And if you'd like to schedule any consultations or demos with vendors who are offering AI solutions like HR Geckos, feel free to do so. We shared the QR code to schedule a demo with HR Geckos earlier in the show today. And we're also going to share a resource here in the comments where you can, how do you simplify your HR operations by leveraging all of the technology tools that are at your disposal today. So feel free to download that resource from hrgeckos.com as well. So thank you again for joining us. We're super happy to share our insights and learnings. And we look forward to bringing more of such insightful conversations to you. Take care and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Janell, and thank you, Rajamma.